Hey friends, we are gonna give our IT bands a little bit of love. So if you're not sure what your IT band is, let me show you. So this is a thick, dense band of fabric of tissue that runs along the outer side of your thigh. So if you find where your front pocket would be in a pair of jeans, okay, that's a muscle called your tensor fascia lata, not tensor face lata, tensor fascia lata. And your tensor fascia lata is actually what becomes your IT band. So from this front pocket area, the weave of the tissue, of that muscle tissue, goes from less dense, which is like the muscle consistency, to more dense. Kind of a tighter weave, whereas the tensor fascia lata might be have the density of like a nice athletic shirt. The density of the tissue of the IT band is more like a leather belt or a leather strap. Okay, and so it transitions from that less dense consistency to that greater density as it goes down here to the side of the leg. And then it moves from the outer hip all the way down to the outer knee. And then at that point, the weave, the density of the weave changes again and it flows into something else. So with the IT band, I see a lot of people like runners or cyclists that have some issues with the IT band, such as maybe the IT band is cranky and it's causing knee pain or hip pain or lower back pain. So this exercise is going to help you to affect those dense tissues of the IT band. Now, you might just think, well, Jen, why can't I just grab my foam roller and roll it out? That has to do with the consistency of the tissue. This is super dense tissue, and in my experience, that super thick, dense tissue responds better to sustained deep pressure as opposed to that rolling or rubbing that you might get. So the tools that we're going to use to help us get that deep sustained pressure is going to be a yoga block and a blanket. Okay, so there's a variation here that you can try. When you get into the position, you want to make sure that you can relax into it. So if the sensation of pressure feels too intense to the point where you feel like you're tensing up against it or holding your breath, that's going to be a little counterintuitive or counterproductive, I mean. And so that's when we're going to invite the variation of the blanket. Okay, so let me show you how we're going to get into this. The basic shape is about a side plank, okay? Oh, like a forearm side plank. So I can come into my side plank on my right side, and I'm going to lift up my leg, and I'm going to place the yoga block on that medium setting. And then I'm slowly going to give the weight of my leg to the block. Okay, so if you can relax around your kneecap, and if this feels too intense, let's go ahead and pause. You can roll off for a moment, get your blanket and drape your blanket over your block, and that'll kind of soften the edges there and just make it a little nicer. So you can come back into your side plank. Okay, make sure that you can relax your quadriceps on the front of the thigh so that you're not gripping at the knee. And you notice I have my top leg just kind of like back here. If you want more gravitational force or more weight going down here into the IT band, stack your legs on top of each other. So deep sustained pressure. We're going to be here for a minute. Okay. And actually, You can play around with kind of rocking so that there's a little bit more weight towards the front of the thigh. You can see how that feels. And you can also see how it feels to have more weight towards the back of the thigh. You can choose the part that feels most beneficial. And just to clarify, we're about midway between your hip joint and your knee joint. That's where the yoga block is. Take one more breath in and out here. Again, continuing to relax the kneecap down towards the feet. So to come out, roll back and sit up. Okay, so let's switch to the other side. Before we do, you can kind of touch and notice if there's a change in tissue quality or in warmth. Maybe your right side feels a little warmer. Just check in with that, okay? And so now we're gonna go over to the other side. If you think you wanna start with the blanket, just go ahead and keep the blanket on there. If you feel like you want a deeper or a more intense sensation, you can take the blanket off and just go on the block. So to reiterate, we're going to about halfway between the knee and the hip joint. If you get too close to the knee, it's gonna be a little bit more intense, okay? So really find that middle ground. And we're gonna come into that side plank position. And it might take some adjusting to get there. Okay, so I recommend starting with that top leg kind of out of the way so you have a moment to sink into it here before you add that extra pressure. And again, I think one of the hardest things here is letting the kneecap relax because that really changes the sensation. So if your kneecap, if your quadricep, the muscles on the front of your thigh, if they are engaged, they're gonna be pulling your kneecap up towards your hip, up towards your head. And that's gonna keep your leg from resting more firmly on the block. So if you can, keep trying to relax your kneecap down towards your foot. And I feel like this is a manageable amount of pressure here on this side. I do not need to stack my right leg on top. If you want to stack your right leg on top, please do that. Find what's kind, make the right choice for your body today. You might have to continue checking in with the kneecap. Even if you relax it once, you might have to try it a few times. You can also explore that little bit of rocking where we rock forward towards the front of the thigh and rock back towards the back of the thigh. And again, choosing the place that feels most beneficial, most manageable. Let's take one more breath in and out. Great, and then to exit, we're just gonna roll back off the block and onto the tush and then sit up. Okay, so you can move your props out of the way and take a moment to feel your outer thighs where the IT band is and notice if your left and right side feel a little bit more equal than they did after we only did the right side. Okay. And then maybe you just do a little test. Hey, is it any easier to take my leg across my other leg? Is that any easier? Or you can also try sitting crisscross applesauce and see how that feels. That can be just kind of a nice way to feel out any differences in your legs. So I hope that this is helpful for your IT bands. And I'm so proud of you for taking this, even though this is just a short class, I'm so proud of you for taking this short amount of time to focus just on you. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you next time.